All right then. So now let's write a simple program to understand the array list in an even much better way. So what we can do is I'm gonna create a new file over here called students management.java or something. Enter. So that's the student management class, which is going to have our multiple so our main class function, right? So I'm going to import the java dot util dot array list. That's the thing which is highly important for us. Then I'm going to create a class student. I'm going to create a class, an internal class, another class which is going to be used inside over here, and that is going to be our data type, a custom data type which is going to carries the name, roll number, and the total marks of our student. Then I'm going to create a private variables inside. So private, these variables should not allow any other this class should not be accessible, and the variable should not be accessible even outside of this own file itself. So that's the reason we are keeping everything as a private. So then I'm going to create a string, and which is going to be name, then private int roll number, then private int marks. So since all these variables are private, we can't access these variables directly outside of this classes. So we need a separate functions to return these values. We need a public method to return these private variables values, right? So I'm going to say each and every class has its own constructor and destructor. Constructor is a function which is nothing but is a function which is exactly the same name as your class name, and destructor is nothing but the same name as your class name. Both of the function will be exactly the same name as your class name, but the difference is constructor will be called every time whenever you create a new object, and destructor will be called every time when you destroys an object, right? So I'm going to create a constructor. So student, whenever I'm creating a new object for it, that object should require three different parameters. What are the things? String name, then int roll number, and int marks. Open it. So then I'm going to apply all these variables, and I'm going to store all these variables directly into our class variables, just like this. This dot marks is equals to marks. So marks, this particular, you can see this particular marks is the formal parameters. This is the function parameter, and this is a temporary variable which is accessible only inside this student constructor. So in order to store it globally, what I need to do, I need to get this marks value and I will put it into the class variable. So to understand, make it clear, let's say I, N, R, and M. So I'm going to store this marks directly into our global marks. Just like the same way, then I need to store the name. On the name, I'm going to store the name. Then this dot roll number, I'm going to store the roll number. So in order to keep it clear for you and for the better understanding, I'm just naming these variables like this, but you should use the proper naming conventions. That's the better way to do it, right? So now I need to write the getter methods to access all those private variables, because I can't access this name, roll numbers outside of this class. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a public method, public string, which is going to return the name. So I'm just going to say get name. So this function should return this dot name. Okay, you can directly use this parameter, or you can simply use the name, because then this is a private variable which is accessible inside the same class itself. Then I'm going to copy this method and I'm going to paste it two more times. This is going to be get roll number, and this function is going to return an integer output which is going to be the roll number, and this is going to be get marks, which is not going to be a string, which is going to be an integer, and it should returns the marks over here. These are the public methods which is going to return those values. And now inside the student management, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create this public static void main, open it, and string arguments, open it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an instance for the students. First, let's understand how to call that students object over here. So let's say student s1 is equals to new student. So now I need to supply the name and the roll number and the marks. So for the name, I'm going to say John, And for a roll number, I'm just going to keep it as 101, and for marks I'm just going to say 95 or something like this, and at the end semicolon. Now if I wish to get the name of the specific student, what I need to do, I just say system.out.println. I just use this s1 object, then I can access this get name function or get mark function or get roll number function. That function is going to return me the values based on the function whatever I'm trying to call, right? So if I call get name, what happens? It will go to this object and figure it out whether it is having the get name function or not, and it will try to return the name. And what we have in that name, by the time when I'm creating the student, I'm supplying three different values: name, roll number, and mark. So name, whatever I supplied in the variable n, that will be stored in our global variable inside the class variable name, and roll and mark will be automatically saved to those respective variables, and that these respective functions will return those respective values. Now I call the get name, so that is going to return the name. Now if I save this and if I run this, no mistakes over there. Let me clear it, and let's say Java student management. Okay, you can see we have the student and the student management, but you need to call the main class function. What is our main class function? Student management. So you should run the students management. Now you can see it's returning me the answer John. But if you simply call the students, you will get nothing. If you simply call the student, see, we are getting the error because there is no main method on the student. We all know that, right? So whenever you're compiling the multiple classes, even if you're having multiple classes, you can see we have the student and the student management. Because I do have multiple classes inside this file, it will compile both the classes and keep that output over there, right? I hope you understand now. Now, the main task of this is not accessing these things like this. We need to store this student name inside the array list, like a multiple students informations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an array list over here, and I'm going to create a data type. Instead of using integer or a float or something, I'm going to supply the student object into it, student class into it. Then I'm going to say students is equals to new array list of that specific type. Right now we have the list of students type, so each student should have the name, roll number, and the marks, right? So that's the thing, that's the thing that we are trying to do. So now I'm going to try to add new student over here. You can enhance this program by reading name and everything dynamically and putting it on array list, but in this case I'm just going to hard code it. I'm just going to say students.add. Now I need to supply the instance of that student. So I'm going to create a new student instant over here, and I'm just going to say Alice. Alice roll number is going to be 101. Then I'm going to send the mark as 87 semicolon. Then I'm just going to copy and paste 3 more times. Instead of Alice, I'm just going to say Roman, and his roll number is going to be 102, and his mark is going to be 90. And this is going to be Lisa, and let's keep this roll number as 103, and her score is going to be 96 or something. Save these changes. Now we do have the multiple students over here. So now if you wish to display all the students, think about it. So if you wish to display their name, what you need to do, you need to call the get name. If you wish to return their roll number, you need to call get roll number. If you want to get their marks, you need to call this function. So every time whenever I need a very specific value, I need to call these specific functions to get those values, right? So if over here I'm just going to say system.out.println, I'm just going to say all students or something like this, and I'm going to get the every single student. Each student is the type of student class. I'm going to get the student object, and I'm going to get that completely from our array list, right? And here I'm just going to say system.out.println, open it. So I need to get their name first, so name colon, then I need to join their name using st.getName. Then along with this plus I need to join their roll number, so roll number colon, then I'm gonna join the st.getRollNumber, something like that. Save these changes. Now let me show you. So clear it, and if I run this, and let me run it. You can see all students name Alice, roll number is 101, Roman, roll number is 102, Lisa, roll number is 103. This is quite complicated. I don't want to print it every single time. So if you want to override this, right? So if I want the complete student information, what I can do is I can basically over here, let's say public string toString. That is a magic method called toString, which is basically will helps you to return the complete information just exactly the same way over here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this out and I'm going to say return, paste it over here, right? And then this is not necessary. I can directly access those variables over here. I need to return the name over here. Then I need to return, all I have to do is to say plus sign. Okay, I'm sorry, plus sign is need to be added up over here. Roll number, and right after here I need to bring the roll number, then add the plus sign, then I need to add the marks, then I need to supply the marks over here just like a string. Okay, all right, so this is this toString. So this toString method will be, see here, returns the string representations in the object, right? Whenever you are directly printing the object, instead of printing the object annotations, it will call this toString method automatically and it will returns this value. Let's try it out. Instead of printing this like this, I can simply call st. Now this function will be returned automatically. Compile, clear, rerun. Look at that. See? So every time you don't want to use it over here, you can create a customized string over there by yourself, and that will be automatically returned whenever you are directly printing your object. So that's the beauty of having the toString. So now we printed the complete student's information, but now what I need to do is I need to get a very specific student information. Let's say I'm supplying a roll number. Based on that roll number, I need to fetch the information. So let's say int roll number to find. This is the roll number I need to find. I need to find 102, something like that, right? So for I'm going to get from the student's instance student, I'm going to get that student information from the student's array list, right? Now I'm inside. So if that st dot get roll number, if that roll number is equals to, if it is equals to roll number to find, then that means we figured out that particular student. Then I just need to return the whatever the information that you want. System dot out dot print. Let's say I want the mark of that student. Mark is equals to, I need to supply the mark of that student, st dot get marks, right? Once you figure it out, I need to break this semicolon. I need to break this loop. Save these changes, then compile it one more time, clear it, and rerun this entire program. And you can see all students and the marks. And now you can see the mark of that the specific roll number, what, 102. What is that mark? Is 90, and that's the answer we are getting it over here, right? So you can keep all these things. You can use the switch case, and you can you can read the input from the user, and you can perform the actions based on the values whatever the user supply. If the user supply to add a new student, you can read the details whatever it is required, and you can put it into the array list. And based on the action, if the user try to remove it, you can supply the roll number and you can remove it. Just exactly the same way you need to remove the value. So just how we figured out the value. So figured out by getting the roll number, if it is equal to that specific roll number, we just printed it. If you want to remove it, all you have to do, what you have to say, once I printed it, I need to remove this student. So if you wish to remove that student, what you have to do is, all you have to say st dot from the students, from that students, I need to remove that specific information, right? So I need to remove that specific roll number. Based on the roll number, you need to remove that student, or you can simply supply the index over here. So you can, instead of using this loop method, you can loop through the array index, and you can supply the index value, so you can directly delete that value from that students list. Okay, so this is how you need to use this use the array list over here to work full extent of it. So this is just a basic example to understand how to work with the array list and everything. So you have to practice with the different examples to understand much better with the array list and get familiarized with it. All right, so I'll see you in the next video.